Welcome to FinTech Confidential, bringing you the people, tech, and companies that change how you pay and get paid. What lessons that you would want to pass on to conference attendees?
If you walk into the show and you don't have a plan, you'll be pulled into every conversation known to man.
My favorite thing to do is open up voice notes as I'm walking to my next meeting, just talking in the voice notes.
Not going to pitch our products on stage, use experiences to tell the right story. That's what we want. The feet on the street agents and traditional ISO. You have to continue to evolve.
Give advice to a first-time attendee of WSAA.
Meet everyone and have no regrets.
Hey, Tedd Huff here. Ever thought about how you could streamline your application and underwriting process? Well, let me introduce you to Under. Why keep using the outdated methods of PDFs when you can digitize them effortlessly? All you gotta do is upload the PDF, send it out for digital signature, and voila, you're set for the digital age. Are you curious on how to make that happen? Head over to under.io/FTC and get started for free. It's really that simple. Welcome to FinTech Confidential Series Leaders One-on-One, where we sit down with FinTech leaders to learn about what drives their passion for FinTech, leadership lessons, and for their businesses. I'm your host, Tedd Huff, and today's guest is John Newton, an officer of the Western States Acquirers Association, or otherwise known as WSAA. John, thanks for joining me today.
Great to be here with you.
You know, I've been going to these shows for a number of years.
Like you, I've also been going to these shows for a long time.
I still remember going to the very first Midwest Acquirers Association meeting. I drove about 3.5 hours from where I lived at the time to go to it because the founder of Heartland Payment Systems, Bob Carr, he told me it would be totally worth my time. The exhibit floor was a hallway with a whole bunch of tables along the side. Now, obviously, the shows have evolved quite a bit since then.
Great way to look at it is the evolution of the show. WSAA's got, I think this year we're expecting anywhere from 15 to 2,500 total attendees. Back in the day, that walking in when we had 400 to 500 people in a room together was quite an accomplishment.
I want to explore this a little bit different and not make this just one of those, hey, come to our conference. I want to dig a little bit deeper into it and talk about the leadership lessons that come from building, hosting, and attending these types of events. Because, I mean, let's face it, conference attendance is a leadership skill that a lot of people never actually learn. And before we get into that, what led you to become an officer at WSAA and why taking on a leadership role in the merchant acquiring industry became so important to you?
Ted, I appreciate that. And listen, I've been in the acquiring space for 25 years, right? So a lot has happened over that time. In my personal life, I've always been one that likes to give back to the community. Coaching youth lacrosse, the idea of being able to give back to the acquiring space, it was kind of a natural progression for me to want to give back a little bit and then also help progress the show forward as the markets evolve.
So I had to ask, was this one of those things where you helped a little bit here and there and I want to take it to the next level? Or was it one of those, hey, John, you really should come on and do these types of things with us? Which level did you fall into?
Let's call it a little bit of both. They've made a great fit. And I'm telling you, the people on the WSAA board are just some of the most dedicated professionals and kindest people you've met. And so it was really a great fit for me, and I've enjoyed every minute of it.
I've been to every regional show at this point in my career, whether it be the Northeast, the Midwest, the Southeast, obviously Western states. Each one has kind of its own personality, but WSAA has consistently been the largest regional conference for merchant acquiring. What do you think's driven that growth and continued growth, as we talked about just a moment ago, and the fact that other than the fact, I should say, that it just has a very large geographical area in which you cover?
The number one thing, obviously, the Western states is a huge geographical area. And then sometimes we get into fist fights with other shows around Texas. if you think about it, could kind of sit on its own. One of the things that I believe has made WSAA grow so much is the dedication of the volunteers. But one of the core tenets of WSAA is to provide the absolute best in educational experience, thought leadership from across the market. And this year, I believe we have 10 or 11 hours worth of, so half the show at least, of educational sessions, general sessions. We also are blessed with just a great group of sponsors across the entire ecosystems: card brands, point of sale providers, software providers, banks, ISOs, agents, et cetera. So the last thing I would say as far as what makes WSAA grow is that because of our geography, we do a lot of work trying to find just the best locations to have a show. A destination that can be parlayed into a vacation if you want. And I think this year's show in Scottsdale at the Fairmont Princess is no exception to that.
It's showing itself as being a destination type event. I mean, the Princess is sold out. So, and I live here locally to the area, so I wasn't looking for room, but I thought that was really interesting to see that happen. But it also makes me wonder, when you grow to a point where you're selling out a major resort in one of the top 5 cities in the country, how do you maintain that intimate feel that really has made the regionals special?
Let me maybe address that, starting with the growth that we've experienced is not without challenges. Because at this point, our evolution, there's only so many hotels and resorts that can satisfy our needs, right? So as we continue to grow, a couple of things that we've done to really keep that white glove, intimate feeling is through our volunteers and our board, we make sure that not only are we there and present while it's greeting people as they come in to register and helping people navigate the show depending on how complex the layout is, but more than that, it's constantly being available. As I know you've been out on our website, I know you've seen the notifications about the hotel, but we field a ton of calls and questions, whether it's from sponsors or attendees or exhibitors, just trying to get a little bit more information. And so we try to provide as much, and I think we've seen this in the industry, we try to provide as much self-service as we can, leveraging technology, but it's always backed by a board that's willing to pick up the phone and have a conversation to make people feel like we care. And the truth of the matter is we really do. We want everybody to come in and have just the best time and the best networking and educational experience they can at WSAA.
One of the things that I thought was really cool, because WSAA had sent out an email saying, hey, if you're getting approached about a hotel, it's not us. We don't do that. Which is why I find that interesting, is because the exact same company is doing the exact same tactic with the larger, I'm not going to name names, but the larger or the largest FinTech conferences. They're doing it for them too. And I haven't seen anything from them. So I think that personal touch of making sure that everybody understands what's real, what isn't, and reaching out to everybody has been, to me, that step on. That's that feeling of, hey, we're going to take care of you. You're part of this tribe, and we're going to protect the tribe as best we can, which has been really, really nice to see.
And I think, if we think back to the earlier shows, long time ago for both of us, those shows were small enough where you might not have known everybody when you walked in the door, but by the end of the show,
you pretty much did by the time you walked out.
Exactly. And we love that feel, that approach. It should be, we're an industry full of friendly competition, right? So having everybody feel that way and then being a little proactive in our messaging, but also reactive. If we receive word that somebody's doing something they shouldn't be doing, we want to take care of it and make sure that everybody, because every constituent that comes to the show, whether they're a sponsor, exhibitor, or an attendee, is they're all connected. The show is meant to be connective tissue, right? And so we want to take care of them because they help make the show what it is.
One of the things I'm really curious about, when you look at your audience, it's the ISOs, it's the agents, it's the ISVs, it's the processors, it's the banks, it's the technology providers, distribution companies. I mean, the list is, the ecosystem itself requires a lot of players. And all of these people most likely aren't seasoned conference attendees like yourself and myself. But there are some mistakes that often show up. I would love to get your perspective on what lessons you've learned that you would want to pass on to conference attendees that maybe they don't realize it until later.
I think you probably have stories about this as well. The first one is always have a plan, right? If you walk into the show and you don't have a plan, whether you're a first timer or a veteran, you'll be pulled into every conversation known to man. And these are good conversations to have, but you kind of are adrift at sea and letting the current take you everywhere you want to go, right? If you build a plan, the best piece of advice I ever got and that I use still today is set your meetings before you get there. Know who you want to talk to, set up those meetings, be specific about when you're going to meet, whether it's on the trade show floor, whether it's a quiet moment in a quiet corner, lunch, a dinner, a breakfast, whatever it may be. And then make sure you've got time between your meetings because there's plenty of impromptu, oh, hey, Ted, do you have 5 minutes? I wanted to catch you up on this cool thing we're doing. So there's so many of
that one has always been the bane of my existence because I'm one of those people I like to plan and fill my calendar as much as possible so I can get as much done. And if I don't do what you're talking about and place that extra time in there, I'm late for everything. And that is one of my biggest pet peeves of being late. So I had to learn it the hard way. And it probably took me a little bit longer than it should have to figure that out. But it did. I did.
Sometimes these lessons, we're hard-headed people, I think, sometimes. But the other thing that I would say that's equally important is it's not only just gathering business cards, but take 15 or 20 minutes at the end of each day. Most of these shows are at least a day or two long, and there's so much going on. But take a few minutes at the end of each day, write down who you talked with, what you talked about, what your next steps are. So you've got an action item, kind of a plan of attack once you get home from the show.
It's interesting you bring that up because once I figured out I needed some time between the sessions, I started taking the time to do that in between going from one meeting to the next. And my favorite thing to do is to just open up voice notes on my phone. And as I'm walking to my next meeting, just talking into the voice notes, saying, so-and-so, this, that, whatever we talked about, what I took away as next steps, what I need to do, whatever it is, hit end, and then just keep rolling. That has helped me a ton. But the follow-up is probably one of the most underutilized items, and timing around that follow-up. I think it's hilarious when I get the email the day after the event. Thank you. I appreciate your excitement, but I'm still mentally checked out from the show. So giving it to me the next day is probably not the best thing. Maybe the Tuesday of the following week. That's one of the things that I personally, and I may not be the only, that kind of feels that way.
If you're in a corporate role, a sales role, really any role, but if you've there's only so much you can do. If you're going to really invest your time in the show, there's only so much day job that you can do during that time. So you're going to be walking into, hopefully a mountain of prospects calling you back and all these things from the week prior. So taking a beat and letting people settle back into their daily routine certainly can be beneficial.
I'm going to take us back down memory lane here a little bit, right? One of the things that I've noticed, and this takes the leadership from the boards to really see this, is that like the old format, and I know you mentioned you've got, 11 hours worth of content, but the old format was like back to back to back to back to back to back content, and then a little cocktail reception at the end of the day. And it really didn't give the time, what you're talking about, for the meetings, for the socialization with the 11 hours. How did you guys make the decisions on when to place the networking breaks, when to open the show floor, when to have the sessions? Should I have multiple sessions running at the same time? How did you guys determine the flow of the show?
I've been to shows where it's all trade show floor all the time. Personally, it's exhausting, right? You have to make your own breaks. What we looked at, and I'll go back maybe not years and years ago, but at least a few years. We had started doing some educational sessions and things. And this is when our show was really one afternoon, evening, and then a full day, right? And so we've expanded our show now to 2 full days, which allows for more time and allows for more flexibility in how we run the show. If you think about some of the evolution of the show and the run of the show has become, it's organic in its feedback. We had a golf tournament on day 1, and then the show would open that night, right? And then we would run the show the following day and everybody would go home. Well, we had a lot of people who would show up to the show that didn't play golf. And the evolution was, well, we should provide something for those folks to do, provide some additional value to them during the golf tournament, because the golf tournament's a great networking event, but we all know that not everybody plays. And so that kind of took us down one path. And eventually those sessions were so well attended that we ended up extending some of that on one. And eventually we moved the golf tournament to day 0. For instance, this year on Monday, we will have the golf tournament. And then on Tuesday, we'll actually kick the show off and then give a nice balance of sessions and exhibit hall time so that there is plenty of time to not only not have to make a decision on which session you want to be a part of, but you have time to pick and choose the sessions you want to go learn and listen to. And then there's plenty of time to network inside the hall.
If we've got 11 hours of content out of those 2 days, how much time is left to do the networking and the exhibitor interaction and all of that? How does that balance? What does it look like?
On top of the session time, the educational time, there's almost an equal amount of time. So I think 8.5 hours and 9 hours of exhibitor time. And then outside of the exhibitor floor, there's networking events and networking, I'll call them after parties, right? They're not I'll call not designed to be into the wee hours of the morning, but something where,
although they tend to end up there, but yes.
Said that was years ago.
Yes. Wait. That just happened like a couple months ago. So I'll let it slide. Yeah, a few years ago.
Yes, years back when we were much younger men. No, but if you think about the after parties, they're absolutely designed to not only provide additional, some food and beverage, but also to allow some of that time to recap at the end of a long day, whether it's with your team at the party or you're sitting down with a prospective client or old colleagues. It's a great way to wrap the day up. To our point earlier, take some notes on what needs to be done when you get back home or who you want to talk to the next day. So it's a great time to reset and get prepped for the next day or get prepped for home time.
Support provided by Skyflow. What if you could build fast but not break privacy? What if you could ensure data privacy, governance, and compliance with just a few API calls? What if you could worry less about PCI requirements while actually improving privacy and security? How much more time would your team have to truly innovate? How much faster could you build and ship new features? How much more powerful could your app be? Skyflow is a zero-trust data privacy vault delivered as an API. Skyflow's radically simple design lets you collect, secure, and tokenize personal information like card data and payment details. And with built-in features like encrypted data analysis and sharing, anonymization, and advanced governance, your days of choosing between data security and data usability are over. Whether you're just concerned with PCI compliance or need to go further to include CCPA, GDPR, SOC 2, and beyond, Skyflow has you covered. What if you could build fast but not break privacy? With Skyflow, you can. Visit skyflowsecure.com today to learn how. I've spoken, I've moderated at many of these shows, and something that I've always respected about WSAA, that all the regionals do a really good job with this, and most shows do too. But you guys have been extremely diligent about managing the fact that it doesn't become a sales pitch. Like, that is one of the things that tends to happen. Now, it's happened a couple times, but you guys reeled it in really, really quickly. And as a moderator, I know it becomes very hard. How do you balance between things that are truly educational, meaning policies or regulation, versus a technology provider, or versus someone working to expand their distribution channels? How do you balance the agenda of content to manage through that?
Yeah, so listen, content is something that we take incredibly seriously. It is very near and dear to my heart. It was when I first got into the ISO world and started going to shows, I learned an awful lot very quickly through some of the educational sessions that some of the different shows had put on. So one of the things that we do is early in the year, we do go to the broader market and we do a topic solicitation. We want to make sure that our content, also we have very smart, very dedicated people on the board who can come up with topics, but we want to hear from the street. That's one of the biggest benefits that WSAA provides is we go out to the street and say, what's important to you? So we take that information and trust me, we get a lot of it, but we have to then make decisions on what's stack ranked, what's the most important versus we got one random topic solicitation. So we'll put that to the side and focus on the heavy hitters. So once we've built out what that content is going to be, then we'll go and we'll start talking to potential speakers and start firming those things up. One of the things that we do, and I don't have any insight on the other regional shows, but we do have a speaker policy that essentially says we're not going to pitch our products on stage. We will use experiences to tell the right story. But that's what we want. There's so much gravitas in marketing, just personally, if you're on stage speaking, that you really don't need to, everybody knows who you work for when you're on stage. And so you don't need to pitch your product there. It's just, we look at it as, not even that it's inappropriate. It's just, it's not the philosophy that we have. Our philosophy is we want to be educational first. And there's so much value to being on stage as it is that you shouldn't have to pitch your products there.
Shows like this are really managed by industry volunteers. And in order to lead a group like that, it requires a completely different skill set than just running a business. And I'd like to understand how the broader leadership team at WSAA maintains the momentum, the vision, as just like yourself, everybody else has a full-time job on top of this. How do you help maintain that momentum and that vision and that excitement?
I think the first thing, and Ted, you know this just in general, right, is you treat each other with respect. We have so many business owners and high-level corporate folks and ISOs and others from around the market. We do try very hard to have a diverse board. So we have experiences and then opinions and context from different parts of the industry, which I think serves us very well. But nobody's losing their livelihood if they don't meet a deadline. But we have very strict but understanding cadence of board meetings, and we do a lot of work from casting the vision and strategizing what next year's show might look like. There's only so much time in the year to do that. And then we get into full show mode. It's more tactical execution than anything else. We try to treat everybody with a ton of respect. We have a very open communication policy of, we understand you've got a day job. The deadline is X. If you can't get there, raise your hand and ask for help. It's okay. And I think most of the regional boards do this, but we still have some original members that are sitting on the board today that were original members when WSAA kicked off. And then we have some new blood as well. So the folks that maybe it is their first year and they're an advisory board member, and maybe they'll graduate up through the ranks of the board over time. So we try to set expectations very clearly. Communication is absolutely key. And then trust and respect that if you tell me you're going to get it done, I'm going to treat you like an adult and you're going to get it done.
We really liked the fact that we could create an app and people could download it. And this kind of goes back to your self-service comment earlier. Download an app, look at it, see what was on there, maybe set up a couple of alerts. It started out that way. And then even today, we're still looking at, and I think you and I were talking about this before, is like the paper agenda, quick glance agenda is still a fan favorite because it allows you to not be in your phone or on your phone. Because when you're networking, you don't want to interrupt somebody if they're in the middle of something. And now we don't know, are they scrolling through the agenda? Are they in a conversation with a colleague, a client, what have you? You don't really know when they're in that phone. But if they've got that paper agenda and they're looking at it, it becomes that nice little conversation starter. So what other things have you seen that maybe sound a little counterintuitive when it comes to being technology forward, but attendee friendly?
Yeah, you nailed it right there. And I know that was we meant it kind of as a funny remark the first time, but it really is the truth. I think we're picking up some of those social cues as well, right? Just in our personal lives. Think about it, if I'm on a plane and I don't want to have any conversation with the person next to me, what do? I plug my earbuds in and I'm in my own little world, right? So I think that one is huge. We talk about both the website where literally if Tedd wanted to go sign up for the show as an exhibitor, as a sponsor, as an attendee, register as other people, pay for golf, do other things, everything can be done without interacting with a person. However, most of the time we provide some sort of hand-holding to get through that technology. We'd love it if it was frictionless, but at the end of the day, a little bit of friction sometimes gives you an opportunity to differentiate yourself from everybody else by providing a value. So one of the things, we've got a recharge lounge. So if your phone is on fumes, you can plug it in and other people may come by and sit down with you and you can start conversations that otherwise you might not have had. Things like that are just, they're small, they're nice to have. And sometimes you may not think about it. If I'm walking down the hall, I may see the recharge lounge 3 or 4 times and I may have a battery pack in my pocket that's taking care of my phone. But sometimes you just want to sit down and find that quiet corner, and that can be that quiet corner for you. A time just to catch your breath and catch up. But the technology side, I mean, to your point earlier, the mobile app is fantastic. It can alert you. So you get a little buzz in your pocket when it's time to go to that session that you wanted to see, that you had circled on the mini agenda, but the mini agenda's in your pocket or in your lanyard badge. Those things, they're great. I think the technology has just become such an integral part of our everyday lives that I don't see us really moving anything away from that. But being able to stick that phone in your pocket, look at the agenda, go where you want to go, or even just walk up and ask somebody wearing a name badge, hey, what's next? Anybody that's there from the WSAA board is more than happy to engage and have conversations. We're always looking for feedback. And while we might lever some technology after the show for a survey or something, I'd much rather hear it, have a conversation with Tedd and understand what did he like? Where is there room for improvement? Was it just a personal thing or was it a broader issue that we need to address?
Well, we've come to that time in the episode. I want you to look into the crystal ball and I want you to tell me, what do you see changing in the next 3 to 5 years? Not just conference related, but more of the acquiring industry, how do you see it changing in the next 3 to 5 years?
I love that you're holding the crystal ball there. What I see is a continued evolution. The last 3 to 5 years and even longer than that, right? We've seen a lot of consolidation. I think that every time we see consolidation at the top and then it follows in the mid-market and then at the smaller end of the scale, it spits off new ideas and people reinvent themselves. And so we have all this new energy and buzz inside of the acquiring space. And I think that's floating a broader fintech market. It's certainly making inroads into acquiring. We're all partnering somehow. I really think we'll continue to see that. I think we'll continue to see acquisitions. I think we'll see more and more technology plays that are, I'll call it consuming payments, and more payments plays that are consuming technology. What we think we Stripe and Adyen and Square and Toast, and I'm leaving off tons of them. There's always room for, and I believe this, there's always room for the feet on the street agents and traditional ISO, but they have to continue to evolve the same way the rest of us do, right? They have to embrace technology. And I think over the next few years, I think we'll start seeing more of the periphery of the acquiring space coming in, adding value, looking for distribution, which, let's face it, in the acquiring space, there's no shortage of distribution. I think AI is obviously going to play a huge role moving forward. And I think in many more areas than I think either one of us could even imagine right now.
If you were to give advice to a first-time attendee of WSAA, what would it be? And in one sentence.
Meet everyone and have no regrets.
I love it. Why is that so important for them to do?
There's so many different entities and people at the show from various backgrounds. The people in our industry are amazing. And everyone is open to have a conversation. Everyone at the show, they're there for a reason. So take advantage of the time and don't walk away going, oh, you know what I wish I'd done? I wish I'd gone to another session, or I wish I'd said hello to Ted, because I've seen his podcast, right? FinTech Confidential. I'm listening to it every week. It's those types of things. If you've invested the time and the money to go there, take advantage of it. So don't walk away going, I wish I'd done this or that.
I do want to let everybody know, if you were wanting to sponsor this year's Western States Acquirer Association, I'm unfortunately having to let you know all of the sponsorships have been filled, but guess what? There's always next year. But they are still, registration for new attendees are definitely going on. This is September 8th through the 10th in Scottsdale at the Fairmont Princess Resort. If you haven't been to a WSAA before and you're curious to find out why they've continued to be the largest regional acquiring show, you need to show up and check it out. And like John said, don't be shy. So the big piece that I pulled out of today was, first, conference attendance. It is a skill just like everything else, and it requires preparation, intention, follow through, as we talked about. And it's not just about showing up and hoping that all the good things happen that you would want. And then the second piece of that is that it's important to understand that just because maybe you went a few years ago, it isn't going to be the same today, because the evolution of the formats and the people and the topics change every single year. And then the last piece of it is, by going and having those conversations, you're going to start to build the trust. As we talked about, it used to be the 400 people. You walked in knowing a handful, you walk out knowing everybody. That trust builds over time, and I think it's super important for people to dive into it. And if you want to check it out, go over to westernstatesacquirers.org. And John, thanks for sharing your perspective on the show, on the industry. I really appreciate it today.
It was great. I appreciate you very much. Looking forward to seeing you in Scottsdale.
It is going to be a great time. And with that, folks, it's a wrap for this episode of FinTech Confidential's Leaders One-on-One. Remember, leadership shows up in how you prepare for, engage at, and follow up after industry events. And if you've gotten value from this conversation, subscribe and share with someone who could benefit from thinking more strategically about conference attendance. And until next time, I'm reminding you that leadership lessons are everywhere if you're just paying attention, and keep moving forward. As we wrap up today's episode, I've got one last thing for you. If you're in the trenches fighting fraud and financial crime, you know it's a complex battlefield. That's where Hawk's AI tools for real-time payment screening, AML, transaction monitoring, and dynamic customer risk rating come into play. These aren't just buzzwords. They're game changers designed to make your compliance more effective and less of a headache. Imagine slashing through false positives with precision and giving your compliance strategy the edge it needs. Head on over to gethawkai.com to sign up for a demo and discover how their platform can revolutionize how you fight fraud and financial crime.
This has been a production of DD3 Media, with all rights reserved. This is provided for informational purposes only. It is not offered or intended to be used as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. We strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information, but will not be responsible for any missing facts or inaccurate information. You comply and understand that you should use any of this information at your own risk. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile financial assets, so research and make your own financial decisions.